and you need some practice, then I would love to help you learn more about that in August. And I'm very excited to be taking Leslie's workshop on row-level security in September. If there's something that you're excited about, we would love to have you speak, even if it's your first time, especially if it's your first time. Please make a submission. I'll pop this in the chat once I'm done chatting. But essentially, it would just be great to hear more of our local professionals talking about the various things that make Power BI exciting or infuriating, but useful. We've got a couple upcoming local meetups. So DataViz DC is always spectacular. They're on August 10th. And then we've got the DZ Tech meetup coming up on August 2nd. And Data Science DC and DataViz DC will be a joint lightning talk event on August 22nd. And keep an eye out for Data Ops DC. Finally, conferences. We've got a community day coming up on July 29th. October 3rd to 5th is the Las Vegas Power Platform Conference. And October 15th and 20th is the Community Summit North America Conference in Charlotte. I'll be attending and speaking at this last one. So if you're on the fence about going or you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to chat with you about it. And I will give the screen back to you. Oh no, we caught you just when you're getting coffee. I'm so sorry. It's all you, Soheil.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me share my screen again. Okay, can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you very much for having me in the Power BI Washington, DC. I've never been in there in person. So it's a pleasure to meet with you guys and ladies sort of virtually, right? So as mentioned earlier, today's session is about Power BI governance, which I want to, in purpose, I put Fabric logo and then saying Power BI governance. And I made a lot of changes into this slide. And I was thinking, okay, is it at the end of the day, Fabric or Power BI? And then I decided to go Fabric, right? So the rest of the presentation that you'll see, it is more about Fabric, and I'll start talking about Fabric a little bit at first. And let me tell you something, whatever we discuss today applies to both, whether you go and get Fabric, and if you are excited about Fabric or Power BI, it applies to both. And actually, it is about data governance and all those sort of things, which applies to almost every sort of data platforms, right? And the focus of today's session is more around what organizations really need to know, what is governance, and what you would expect to face, right? Okay, so let's start. And just one quick note, just please ask any questions if you have any, and don't bother stopping me in the middle of the presentation. I don't want this to be just a monologue, which in virtual events is a little bit hard because I do not see you in person, because I usually and normally ask, the first question is, what do you know about the topic? And the topic can be whatever. And the attendees or the people in the room react to that question, and that starts the conversation flow pretty smoothly. Okay, so we don't have that option today, but please ask questions, stop me whenever you want, and ask your questions, okay? Let's carry on. Okay, so first of all, who am I? I am Soheil Bakhshi, and I am a Microsoft MVP, founder of Data Visioner, an author. I've wrote a couple of books in the past few years. The latest one, which published around May, is the second edition of expert data modeling in Power BI, which is, as a topic, as the name of the book resembles, its focus is around data modeling in Power BI. And I wrote a free ebook, which I will put in the chat window in a second. Actually, let me just do it now. So I do this, and I'm sorry, I'm not so fluent using Zoom. So I have to find my way around things. Yeah, I put the links into the chat window. The free ebook is a little bit old now. We wrote it about 2 years back, but the principles are never changed. The UI of Power BI has changed a little bit. And yeah, I'm a consultant, speaker, and blogger, right? Okay, so let's continue. The agenda for today would be an introduction to Fabric. What is Fabric? And then why governance in Fabric or Power BI is crucial, and understanding Fabric administrator role, right? I have a lot of slides, about 35 slides today, and I hope that I can cover everything, right? It would be a little bit of chatty. And so again, please ask any questions if you have any at any time, right? Okay, so let's talk about Fabric. What is Fabric, right? Microsoft announced Microsoft Fabric in Microsoft Build 2023 as a new data platform, right? So what Fabric is, it actually encapsulates different services that were already available in Azure and also Power BI, and they build it on, they built a platform on the building blocks of Power BI service. Power BI by itself was a data platform, right? By all definitions, Power BI is a data platform by itself, but it is a smaller chunk of a bigger, larger data platform, which is Fabric now. So now, if you are a data engineer, if you are a data scientist, if you are, I don't know, an integration engineer, you can start using Microsoft Fabric. If you have any sort of knowledge on using data flows, data warehouses, data marts, all those sort of things, your knowledge would be transferable to Fabric, right? And the world of business intelligence and the world of data is actually changing quite a lot, you know, with ChatGPT, I don't know, Bing AI, Bard, and all those sort of things. You know, the world of data has changed significantly, right? Okay, so, and Microsoft Fabric is just a new data platform, which will be fully supported by Copilot. What is Copilot? Copilot is the data AI engine built by Microsoft. It is available on M365, and it will be available on the entire range of Fabric, Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so now when we talk about Microsoft Fabric in terms of technicality, when you use your web browser and you log into, you used to log into app.powerbi.com. You just type in app.powerbi.com and it opens up Power BI service. It is now Fabric, right? So you can enable Fabric on your tenant, or you can opt out, and it is a capacity base. It is available as a service on Azure, and it is available as capacity that you can purchase. I'm not too sure if the prices are 100% set for the entire globe, but I'm sure that it is available for the US. Maybe not in New Zealand and Australia, but in the US you can purchase Fabric, and it is still in preview, right? So whenever we talk about something that is in public preview, we know that it is subject to change. So whatever we see today may be different tomorrow or next week, right? Okay. Introduction to Fabric. Let's talk about some terminologies, right? In Fabric, there are some new terminologies added to Fabric. Some of these terminologies were already there, right? In Power BI and a data platform. And especially if you're familiar with Microsoft data platforms and Azure data platform, yeah, some of these concepts are already been there, right? Okay, so what is a tenant? A tenant is actually a dedicated instance that is provisioned for an organization or a department, which is associated with your Azure Active Directory, right? So an organization can have multiple departments, and each department can have their own tenant, right? Those tenants can be, integrated into Azure Active Directory. So you will have different Azure Active Directories that have trust relationship between each other, and with B2B mechanisms, they can talk to each other, right? But there are different tenants, right? The users from same Azure Active Directory tenant can access the resources and workspaces of Microsoft Fabric, right? Next terminology is capacity. Capacity refers to the resources that are allocated and dedicated to your tenant, right? So it contains, it is just the horsepower, right? And you have to pay to buy capacity. And that is where the Microsoft licensing plan of capacity-based premium licensing plan were introduced on Power BI, and it is also available on Fabric, right? And Fabric is capacity-based. There is no PPU as such as we have in Power BI Premium per user, which each user can opt in and get a horsepower of a premium capacity, right? Equivalent to P3. It is some sort of semi-shared capacity, but it is not available on Fabric. So speaking of Fabric, Fabric is capacity-based licensing plan, right? Domains. Domains are logical grouping of your data within the organization, right? So if you want to think about domains, you can assign workspaces to domains, right? So you can, if you have something like finance, AP, and AR, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and you want to have a finance domain, you can do that now. And domain is a new terminology, weren't available before in Power BI. So if you think about, and the next one is workspaces, right? Workspaces are logical containers that hold a collection of items and artifacts based on Power BI workspaces in Microsoft Fabric, right? So if you are familiar with Power BI workspaces, it's basically the same thing, right? We used to refer to workspaces as folders, right? So I am one of the people who refer to workspaces as Windows folders whenever I'm providing training training to the attendees, right? Our customers. I say, think about if you want to simplify workspaces, they are like folders that you create on Windows with one big difference. And that big difference is that you cannot have sub workspaces in Fabric or Power BI, while you can have subfolders or subdirectories in Windows, right? And here's the thing. Now, with domains, you can have a larger group, conceptual group, that you can say, okay, so now I have multiple workspaces, and all of these workspaces are they relate to finance. So it is more about adding or thinking about grouping the workspaces based on their functionalities, right? I hope it is clear now. Okay. Personas. Fabric is developed in a way that everyone in the data space can use it, right? And using it with the tools that you are familiar with. If you are a data engineer, you can create your own notebooks, you can create data pipelines, you can do whatever you used to do in Azure, data engineering tasks, right? So it is the same thing in Fabric. If you are a data scientist, you have the tools that you can use in Fabric, right? So it is persona based, and whenever you launch Fabric, if you go to a Fabric portal, you will see a button at the bottom left, which is referring to the experiences or personas, right? So it is experience based on personas. Let me just move across this, my test tenant. Look, this is what I'm talking about. When you land into your Fabric portal, you will see a bottom bottom left. You will see a button that you can click on it, and you will see different experiences. And this is the next point that I want to explain. These are the experiences. So based on experiences are built based upon personas, right? So if you are a data scientist, or if you are a data engineer and data scientist, and you want to wear your data engineering hat now and start using Fabric, you can do it using the data engineering under the Synapse experience, right? So that is persona and experience. If you are using Power BI right today, right, you can do whatever you used to do in Fabric, regardless if you enable Fabric or not. Power BI doesn't change. Items, whenever we talk about items today or whenever that you hear someone is talking about Fabric items, they are actually referring to the physical objects, right? Physical artifacts or objects, something like notebooks, data sets, reports, and dashboards that we are pretty familiar with, or pipelines, or other objects that you create in Microsoft Fabric. Do we have any questions so far?
Nothing yet in the chat. One question that I have, if you really do want to pause for questions, is related to personas in terms of how they're going to replace elements around role level security. Is there an overlap there? Is persona going to replace those roles that we're accustomed to in role level security?
No, they won't, right? So think about personas, and I am now a data engineer, right? So my role, if you want to think in a more globally or generic thinking, right? We have generic roles, right? Developers, that can be a data engineer who develops, I don't know, a notebook or creating a data pipeline, right? And data visualization experts who are creating the reports, perhaps data modelers who are creating the data sets in Power BI. And those are, the data sets are connected to the underlying data, right? And that data can be a lakehouse in Fabric, right? And we have consumers, right? So depending on those generic roles, you can think about personas a part of that, right? It will not affect your rollable security at all. Does that make sense?
Yes, I need to understand more about it, but that is helpful. Thank you. It looks like since I asked a question, a couple others came in the chat. Will asks, can experiences and personas be customized?
In what sense?
Will, are you able to clarify your question?
I don't know if the, I don't, do you want to come up and, sorry, I don't know how far the microphone's gonna go. And we
Just
have one
hold
other,
it.
we have one other in the room question too.
Hello. First off, I want to say good talk so far, enjoying it. So can you customize personas or experiences? Like if I wanted to make a hybrid analyst data engineer role that has some of the access, access to some of the features, like maybe an analytics engineer or something, can I create a custom experience, or are these sort of fixed entities in Fabric that can't be modified?
That's a very good question. I think I don't know the answer for certain, but I think right as today, we cannot modify the experiences, right? I've seen some parts in the admin portal that you can modify the horsepower of your Spark engine, for instance. But in the experience itself, I don't think it would be possible for today, but it is a very good question. Something for me to go and find out about. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you.
And
We
additionally,
got one
go ahead,
more
Leslie.
question from, sorry, we got one more question from the audience.
Yep.
Where should I?
The microphone's here, so.
Okay. Now for this Microsoft Fabric, would this tool be available for like end users, like for example, like in a home environment, would I be able to get access to Microsoft Fabric, similar to how I might be able to get access to Power BI?
No, it won't be. It won't be available. Look, Microsoft Fabric is a really big, massive platform, right? And this is my personal opinion, right? And I'm sort of brave enough, or maybe stupid enough to say so, but I think Microsoft Fabric was the biggest announcement Microsoft have done ever, because it encapsulates many different things on there. It's just one product doing everything for us, and when we dig deeper and go to the mechanics of Microsoft Fabric, I don't want to detour the whole conversation about what Fabric is, and I know there are a lot of questions about it, and I also have many questions about Fabric and its capabilities, but look, it is a big, massive data platform, right? So I don't think it would be feasible for someone to use it for personal usage. You can definitely do it, if you look at the FSQs, if you look for can someone please do it in the background, look for Microsoft Fabric licensing plan or capacities. There is a table that shows the capacities and licensing plans. It starts with F2, which gives you a small horsepower, but it would be giving you, you have to pay for it. If that is the question, you can use Power BI and Power BI service for free. Microsoft Fabric is not available for free, but by all means, you can start using Microsoft Fabric right as of today. Start 60 days trial, right? If you want to start learning Fabric, you can do it. Go for it, right? And it gives you a dedicated capacity for Fabric, right? But after 60 days, yeah, perhaps you want to pay for it and pick one of the licensing plans available as of today, right?
So I am looking this up. And I just found that it looks like free preview has been extended until October 1st. So there's still
Yes.
some preview time available in addition to that 60 days that you're referring to. So if you want to poke around, I'll stick that in the chat as well.
Yeah, look, this 60 days reset yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
If I go to one of the workspaces,
I have
Fabric.
heard anecdotally from some people on the Fabric Cat team that it's likely to continue to be available as a trial until the initial parts of it go.
Yeah, that's
What is the word I'm looking for? Actually live out of preview. So
absolutely.
once it's in GA, there may be some changes to that trial, but my understanding is that the trial is getting kind of kicked down the road for people to play with it while it's in preview.
Yeah, that's correct. And as you can see, I refreshed some of these items about a month ago. So they are just making it available for everyone who is interested to learn Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so if there is no more questions about this topic, I carry on to the next slide. Great. The physical dependencies between in Fabric will look like this, right? I'm a visual person, and I always try to map things into shapes and sort of hierarchies to understand it better, right? So when I was building this diagram, I was thinking that, okay, so it would be much easier to understand what is what when it comes to Fabric and how things relate to each other, right? So if you think about it, we start with tenant, and then the next layer would be capacity, the next layer would be workspace, and the next layer would be items. And I put in purpose the word physical dependencies because domains are sort of conceptual groups, right? So this is the physical dependencies between in different layers in Fabric, right? So for instance, you can assign different workspaces to different domains, right? Okay, great. Now, let's get a little bit more excited, right? Actually, maybe it would be a boring topic from here, from now on, to talk about governance because Fabric is, has a massive hype, I know. Okay, so why governance is crucial, right? From a organization's perspective, and what you really need to know is that governance is crucial to manage your risks. You need to think about data quality, efficiency, collaboration, compliance. And compliance is a big, massive one. No one wants to get in trouble with compliance, right? So when you think about governance and you are moving towards defining governance frameworks, you need to think about these topics, and it is not only these ones. I put just 5 of the most important ones and in this slide, but these are really broad topics that you can talk about risk management in, I don't know, in 2 or 3 day full day training courses, right? Data quality, you can talk about it forever, right? Efficiency, governance streamlines data management processes, which is pretty correct statement, and reducing duplications and ensuring that the data is available to those who need it and when they need it, right? So these words are pretty key words here, right? So who needs it, needs the data, when they need it, and how we deliver the data to these people in an efficient way, right? Collaboration is about who can access what and how they share it with others, right? How they share the data and insight securely across the organization. And it would be even, it would be a little bit more critical when it comes to sharing with external users, right? So we need to think about securing the collaboration mechanism as well, right? So let's talk about Power BI, right? Which the topic of today's call, we discussed with Leslie before that it would be Power BI governance, and then I thought, okay, maybe let's talk about Fabric. And Leslie was kind enough to give me, the freedom to pick the topic. So thanks to Leslie. But anyway, so if we want to think about, collaboration and with internal team, think about HR, think about privacy. And you don't want everyone knows about your HR data, even across the organization. Just some certain people or group of people must know about or access the data or insights of your HR team. If you are in healthcare, then it would be even more critical, right? So how you collaborate the data is important. How you share a report or a dashboard or just a piece of information. It is very important and must be governed. Organizations must think about these things pretty seriously beforehand, right? And compliance, and everyone knows about the laws and regulations that are getting tighter and tighter for good. So being compliant to the rules will save our organization not to get in trouble in the future, right? So now, successful governance starts before adopting Microsoft Fabric, or just replace Microsoft Fabric name with any kind of data platform, right? Whenever you are thinking about governance, it starts before adopting the tools and the platforms, right? So what does that mean? We need to plan for the implementation of the data platform that we're talking about. And in this case, we are talking about Microsoft Fabric, right? Organizations need to define the strategies of why you really need Microsoft Fabric, right? What are the business outcomes from Fabric, right? And what are the motivations? Are the motivations something like agility or cost saving, using innovative and cutting edge technologies, which Microsoft Fabric, as such, brings all of those to. Right? It is pretty agile mechanism of even data engineering and data pipelines, creating all of those sort of things, right? But these are the things that we have to cover when we are defining our strategy, right? Determine and involve and align with the key stakeholders. This is pretty crucial, right? It really gives you a faster and smoother adoption of Fabric or every other data platforms or tools, right? When you collaborate and involve the key stakeholders, right? Involve them, hear them, understand what their needs are, what makes them excited, what are their pain points right as of today, and start from there, right? But involve these key stakeholders from the day first. And then identify requirements. When you talk to the key stakeholders, they will say, okay, I have 2 people in my team that you can talk to. They have a lot of stories to tell you, and you start gathering more and more requirements to understand what you and the organization is actually after by adopting a new data platform, right? So you are moving towards the implementations. You haven't implemented anything yet. You are just taking proper steps, right? And determining the architecture. So if you are not going for Fabric, let's talk about Power BI. Architecture of Power BI would be really crucial, right? What are the data sources? Are they cloud-based? Where they reside? Are they cloud-based? Are they on-prem? Are they hybrid model? You are getting data from different places, and what would be the complexities and what would be the underlying architecture? I've been in this sort of situation that talking to a customer and they say, actually we bought, I don't know, a number of pro licenses, and we bought some PPU licenses, and we created some sort of reports, but we don't know how to deliver those reports into our pro users, right? If you do not understand your requirements, which is the previous point, and if you do not know what architecture you have to pick, you get in trouble. Because, you know, talking about Power BI, the items that you create in Power BI Premium per user are not accessible to pro users, right? So architecture would be really important, crucial point. You know, if you have some on-premises data sources, you will need to use on-premises data gateway. And how many perhaps nodes of the data gateway you would like, and I'm referring to the failover nodes, right? Failover clusters, right? You need to install of the gateway. And where do you install on-premises data gateway? Is it on-premises a server or a VM? You know, it elevates the level of complexity of the implementation pretty quickly. Next item is identify security and privacy requirements, right? So you asked earlier, will personas affect role-level security? They don't, but role-level security is one way to enforce governance, right? And security, from security perspective, what kind of security you require? Something like, I don't want everyone to access the workspace, right? So at the end of the day, I have, again, developers, consumers, contributors, report writers, data modelers. Those are different roles, and they have different requirements from security and privacy perspective, right? Do I want to follow best practices on development best practices? Do I need to have multiple environments? Something like I have dev environment, UAT environment, and production environment. And when I'm talking about environment, it is not just about how we develop a solution. It also refers to the data that we are connecting to. I've been in a situation that, well, yeah, a customer made a copy of production, exact copy, like to like, copy of production, and it was synchronizing every week, right? It's but this is a real and true story, right? It was synchronizing every week, and it was an exact copy of production into UAT, and they were calling it UAT. And the developers and testers had full access to everything, right? That is not UAT. You know, moving something from production, data from production to another environment with, I don't know, less horsepower or less expensive environment does not make it UAT. It's the characteristic of the data itself that makes it production or UAT. So there are some security and privacy requirements on top of that as well. So as you perhaps imagined so far, it is it can be a lot more detailed, and you need to understand a lot of different things, right? From governance perspective. The next one for implementing, planning for implementation is planning for scalability, right? Again, if you are going Fabric or Power BI, whatever, you need to think about scalability, right? And scalability has a direct relationship to the licensing, which is the next point, right? Evaluate the licensing options. What do I require from organizational perspective? What sort of security and privacy I need to have, and all those sort of things. And then I need to plan for, I need to look at the licensing options and the scalabilities and all those items and points. They have interrelationships. We are at the point to go to the next part of the governance topic today. Is there any questions that you would like to ask? Am I being very robotic today?
So Will, I'm going to speak on your behalf. Are there pay-as-you-go auto scaling plans for Fabric?
Yeah, as much as I know, Fabric is also available on Azure as a service that you can run, just like Power BI embedded, right? And even in there, you have to get your SKU. As far as I know, as of today, if you go beyond the horsepower, it handles for you. It just doesn't let you down, but it has certain limitations. Even in Power BI premium capacities, you can get throttle, even though you are on, let's say, P5, which is pretty expensive and pretty powerful. Everything depends on how you use a platform. There are certainly some limits that will hit you if you do not follow best practices, and you know, we have to think about technology limitations as well, right? Did that answer the question?
I think so. And also Leslie popped a good link to Microsoft Learn that covers auto scaling in Fabric as well, which could be a very useful resource.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next one is about establishing a successful governance framework, right? To establish a successful governance framework, we need to assess the current state of organization's maturity, tooling maturity, and the usage of the existing data platforms, right? So I put Power BI in there because no one is using, well, it is in private previews, and some organizations are using it, using Fabric, testing Fabric in private preview, right? But it is not used as much as Power BI, right? So no one can say our organization is pretty mature in using Fabric. It's not like that, because there are some tools that will be available in Fabric that they do not exist in Azure services. Something like Activator, right? Activator is a mechanism that will send you messages when a certain threshold is met, right? It is not available in public preview yet. It is in private preview, but Activator is a good option, is a good example, right? So assessing the current state of, let's say I have a different data platform and I have to assess the current organizational maturity. By that, I am referring to, does everyone across the organization in their role and their interaction with the existing data platform, whatever it is, do they have a good understanding of the concepts of how they interact with the data platform, and so on and so forth? That would be the level of maturity of the organization, right? Maturity of tooling is when you really know how to use Power BI and you well-developed and implemented Power BI or Fabric across the organization, right? So the next one is establishing a Fabric governance team or Power BI governance team. It is important to include representatives from different business units, IT, security, compliance, and legal departments when you are thinking about, establishing a governance team, right? These people are key, and they do require training. They do require to understand what role they play in a governance framework, right? And then define the Fabric governance vision and objectives and what you would like to gain from it and where you would like to be in a period of time, in the next 6 months, in the next year or something, and prioritize and think about your prioritization and strategically and to implement a successful framework, to create a governance framework. And governance framework, developing governance framework, you need to, again, think about data governance, security governance, report governance. In this specific one, I'm referring to Power BI reports. You may have some other, well, I don't know if anyone will use Fabric and then start using a third-party data visualization like Tableau to connect to their artifacts or their items in Fabric, but yeah. And a platform governance as a whole, right? So think about data, security, presentation governance, right? As such, so can be reports or dashboards in Power BI, and platform governance. And then enforce the governance framework across the organization using the available features and capabilities in Microsoft services and Fabric, right? To name some, you can use Fabric admin portal to manage your tenant settings and capacities, manage your workspaces, apps, reports, dashboards, data flows, data marts, everything, right? Can do, you can set a lot of boundaries through the Fabric admin portal. You can use purview sensitivity labels, which you can apply. You can apply classification, data classification labels to your items, right? You can define the sensitivity labels to propagate downstream, right? So and what does that mean? Is that if you add a sensitivity label in your lakehouse, in a column, in a table, in a lakehouse, right? It propagates down to the other pipelines and to the other items downstream, right? Let's say from the lakehouse to Power BI data set, to the report, to the dashboard, right? So if the end user accesses the information via a dashboard, that sensitivity label applies to all of it. Is sensitivity label stopping people from sharing and collaborating or sharing with unauthorized people or unauthorized persons or external? It depends. You can define those sort of rules. There is something in purview sensitivity label, which is encryption. You can enable encryption on your highly sensitive information. And what it does, what it means that if you apply highly sensitive label to a table, right? Or let's say to a data set, right? That sensitivity label propagates down to the report level and then to the dashboard level. right? Let's talk about just a data set and a report, right? I apply a highly sensitive sensitivity label, which is encrypted, does have an encryption feature on it, right? It applies that sensitivity label to the report, right? So now I have someone who opens the report. They do not have access to the data set, right? They open up the report and even row-level security kicks in. It applies, right? But what they do, they export the data from a visual to Excel, right? The sensitivity label propagates from that visual to Excel, right? And now I am a naughty guy and I want to deliberately share this data with unauthorized people, right? I just copy that Excel file into a, I don't know, USB or email it to someone. If encryption is enabled, the other party will not be able to open that file. They will not see anything. A message will pop up saying, it looks that you're not authorized or the file is corrupted and you must log in to Excel with your organization credentials to be able to see the data, right? That is about sensitivity labels in purview labels, right? Purview also have data prevention loss, which identifies and you can identify and monitor and protect your sensitive data automatically on top of the items. The other one is row level security and object level security. So you can enforce, security stuff with row level security and object level security. The next item is item certification, which is an indication of level of trust to an item, right? So let's say I'm talking about a data set, right? And thinking about different levels of trust, you can think about, bronze, silver, and gold. So bronze would be uncertified, never endorsed item. So a data set that is just sitting there and someone is just bolting, right? The next level would be silver, which is called promoted. You can promote a data set or item if you are the owner of that item and you think that the quality of the data and the insight that it contains is a really good shape. You can endorse it as a promoted item. And the next one is certified, right? The certified, it is not available to the owners unless, you can set it up in the admin portal, who can certify an item, right? And even for promoted items, we need to educate the owners, not to promote everything because we think that it is good. We can define some sort of checklists on the quality of the data, quality of the code written, quality of data modeling, quality of data visualization. If you are a data engineer, quality of the pipelines, performance of the pipelines, and if it is connected to a correct data source, and it is not connected to production data source while we are in development, all those sort of things, you can define checklists and hand it over to the owners, item owners, whoever they are. They can be developers, and you say, okay, so this is the checklist. Follow this checklist. If you meet, I don't know, 80 or 90% of the checklist, you can promote an item, right? The next one is to monitor and analyze activities to track item usages and analyze events. Who accessed what? If an item is deleted from production, I need to know about it because maybe it shouldn't be deleted, right? Education is another key factor here to educate all the Fabric users or Power BI users or platform users and ensure that they are familiar with best practices and define some sort of checklists give it to them and say, okay, so these are the rules and factors that you have to follow, follow best practices, and then these are the necessary steps. These are the people that you can approach if you need help or something, right? And continuously evaluate and refine your governance framework. So governance framework, the process of defining of governance framework is an iterative approach. You cannot say, so this is set on stone today, and next day something changes in technology or business requirements will evolve, right? So you need to continuously evaluate and refine the framework. Okay, so it's now again time to pick some questions, and please, if you can tell me about time. I have a couple of more slides to go. I'm sort of halfway, so I can talk for hours about these things, but please tell me about the time. How much time left? Are we on time? At the time, I can finish now and pick up any questions if you have, or we can continue.
Leslie, what do you reckon? You guys have a few more minutes to go through a couple more slides in the Excel offices?
Yeah, I think we've got at least one question from the room.
Okay. And I know that we missed one earlier on, so maybe we tackle a couple of the questions and we can loop back to some final thoughts. Does that work?
Sounds good. Do you want to go ahead, jump in
There's
here?
one in the chat that I've lost.
Yeah, one person who just walked up ready to act. So I'm gonna go ahead and let
perfect.
him jump in.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I had a question in regards to the security. So you had mentioned in the presentation there are many methods by which Fabric has multiple security features, such as the role level security, object level security. I was just wondering, what are the ways in which we configure all these different security settings? Like, are these like dynamic settings? Are they, fixed settings that we do from, say, an admin console? Could they, for example, be integrated with Active Directory Federation and other types of IAM procedures?
Yeah, great question. When it comes to role level security and object level security, it is a combination of the developers and the administrators, right? So if we want to mimic role level security to the role level security that we have already in Power BI, your Power BI developers require to define role level security on the data set, right? So in the data marts side of things, whenever you define role level security, it propagates that role level security back to the data mart, which is a serverless SQL instance, right? When you go to the data mart, you will see that role level security propagated back to the data mart. So if you connect to the data mart, role level security applies to you. Who defines that role level security? Those are the developers, right? Who define the role level security and object level security. But there is another leg, which is on the hands of administrators, or you can define a security group in your M365 or Azure Active Directory, and give these people the rights to apply the security stuff. You need to go to the data set settings, right? If we talk about applying role level security, because role level security in Power BI, and it would be the same, because we do not have consumers using let's say, interacting with a pipeline, right? We have developers who are creating the pipeline, and those developers hand the pipelines to, which are the data engineers, right? Now, they hand it to another group of developers, which are the data modelers, who are creating your Power BI data sets on top of the curated data, right? And then you create some sort of reports, right? when we talk about role-level security or object-level security, we are talking about consumers. The consumers have read-only access to the reports or dashboards. It does not apply to anyone else if they are not viewers on the workspace, or if they do not have read-only access to an app that we create on top of the workspace, right? So role-level security does not kick in for the developers, but for viewers, it kicks in. Who applies those rules? You need to map the rules that are defined at the data set level. You need to be an administrator, or you need to have the rights to do that, right? And you need to map security groups or actual user accounts to those rules that are defined by the developers. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. Any other questions? I can see one question.
I think there
on
was one in the
chat.
chat.
There are a
Yes.
couple. There's one from earlier that I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
Someone asked, can an item be shared between multiple domains? And this is going to get back to that earlier slide that you had.
Yeah, the items are limited to workspaces, right? So you can give different developers access to the workspaces, right? And then you can assign workspaces to different domains. Does that make sense? And when there is at least one slide that I would like to show everyone, which clarifies a little bit more around the administration side of things. I think that will clarify a lot of questions, right? Any other questions? I can see a question on the best methods for monitoring Fabric that I can pick it up now.
Perfect.
Is there any other questions before that?
I think that's all that's in the chat, at least.
Okay, so now in Fabric, if you are a admin, you can click on the settings, right? And that setting, that gearbox depends on the resolution of monitor that you are looking for. You may see some triple dots, ellipsis button, and you click on it and then go to settings. And you have this one at the bottom, Microsoft Purview Hub, right? That you can click on, and it navigates you to Purview if you set it up, and you can monitor your usages, and you can explore who has done what, and it is across Fabric. That is one. And the other method is if you are an admin, click on workspaces, and you have admin monitoring workspace. This is something newly added, right? So you click on it and you'll see the Purview Hub as a report. The previous method navigates you to a dashboard. This is a report, the actual report that you can click on, and you will see different insights in it and usages, right? Or you can open up feature user and adoption, right? Those two are the easiest ways, but there are more methods, right? So there are APIs that you can call. If you are a seasoned administrator, perhaps you would love to use PowerShell. So PowerShell commandlets is another one, and there are many other ways to do that, right? So let me quickly jump through a lot of other slides. Okay, so this is the one that I wanted to show everyone, right? So if we think about the tenant administration and the levels of administrators that we can think of from a Fabric perspective, is that Azure global administrators they are the owners of the entire tenant, right? And then we have M365 admins, Power Platform admins, And when we talk about Fabric admins and Power BI administrator role on Azure, literally and physically, is renamed to Fabric admins. So there is no Power BI admin role in Azure anymore. It is Fabric administrator, right? And from there, the next step would be capacity admins, right? And the last one is domain admins, right? I think that clarifies things a little bit about what we can do with the domain. So if you are a domain admin, you will be able to administer the domains. If you are a capacity admin, you will be able to administer and set some configure some settings on the capacity level, which includes domains and so on and so forth. Hopefully that helps, right? So with that, I think.
Quick
that we
question
are
for
on
you.
time. Yes, sure.
Sorry. To your knowledge, is the workspace admin role going away?
No, I don't think so. Why?
Okay. So that's still in there. It's just further down.
Oh, yes, yeah. Why it is not included in here? Yes, I know. Okay, so one level down. Well, actually, this diagram would be so small. So one level down here would be workspace administrators, right? Yeah, but best practice is to, stay away from giving the end users any kind of access to the workspaces, right? In my experience, the consumers do not really need to even know that some workspaces exist, right? We can deliver the insights and information via apps.
Fantastic. So I think we are well past time at this point. Leslie, do you have any final questions from the room? We've cleared the docket on the online chat in terms of questions that have been put there.
I don't see any from the room right now, but thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate you sharing this.
Yeah, no worries. My pleasure. Thank you for having me today. And hopefully I could scratch the surface a little bit and emphasize the importance of governance and how huge a governance initiative can be, right? Thank you very much, everyone, for attending today's session.
Absolutely. This has been really helpful for me, and I know it was helpful for many of our attendees. Any final thoughts before we close out the session? I'm going to assume that's no, Leslie. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the meeting. Thank you, everyone who attended with me remotely. And thank you for all your attention and thoughts. I hope to see you all next month when I will be helping everybody learn how to make paginated reports not a nightmare. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye
See
all.
ya.